We all got things we worry about. What human being on earth right now isn't worrying about something, Like, it's natural. We all have some sort of anxiety or stress over something that, we think is going to happen or not happen, And a lot of the times, I feel like with worry and stress, it always involves something that isn't as deep as it actually is. We always put a lot more pressure on it than is actually needed. Of course, this doesn't go for everything, but there's plenty of things that I feel like, aren't as big of a deal as we make them out to be. And, that's kind of what I want to talk about for today's video. I think a lot of people always got something run under their minds, and we always tend to put a lot more emphasis and a lot more pressure on whatever that might be, even if it doesn't really need that. And I feel like a majority of the time, it doesn't actually need that amount of weight to it. It doesn't actually, it's not that deep, really. It's not that deep. And unfortunately, if you're cursed enough to have an overthinking brain that tends to want to go into overdrive like I do, then you totally get where I'm coming from with this, where it can literally just be anything that you're worried about or stressed about and whatnot. Your brain just wants to, just full send that worry and make it so much worse than it actually is. It could just be some girl leaving you on red or something like that, and your brain like, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me or something like that. It's always those little like intrusive thoughts that are trying to come through and take over and make you think one way when it's probably really not that deep at all. It's always those little things that you put more emphasis on than really need be. It's annoying, like having an overthinking brain, a little bit off topic, but like having an overthinking brain is a curse, but in a sense it's also a blessing. I don't want to make, your overthinking brain going into overdrive seem like entirely a bad thing. In certain scenarios with things, it puts you in a position where you're more prepared for something to happen in case something bad does happen, So in case whatever that bad thing that happens, you're more prepared for it and you don't feel as bad once it's said and done. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't sting as badly. You're going to feel it a little bit, but it's not really as bad as you thought it was going to be. And I think that really correlates to a lot of the stress that people deal with nowadays. Like, it seems bad in the moment, but it's probably not as bad as you think it is. That's usually the case being. And, at the end of the day, like, think about it this way. If that bad thing that you are worrying about does happen, what do you really lose from it? I mean, think about it. If it's like, I don't know, say like a job opportunity you're really stressing about because it's something that you've wanted to do for a while. It's something you've been constantly thinking about, it's on your mind all the time, and you don't end up getting that job. They turn you down, or just simply, they never get back to you. I mean, what do you really lose from that? Sure, you lose an opportunity, which, sucks. But it's also like you've just opened the door to give yourself so many more other opportunities on your own. Like, the fact that they didn't reply could have just been the greatest thing that happened to you. With worry, it stems from, at least in my opinion, an individual only looking at the bad side of things for the most part. It's always putting emphasis on whatever bad might happen and not really considering the good things that will happen as well. We're human and we do this all the time. Like, a lot of people be doing this, man. If you're not doing this, bravo, man. I'm jealous because, like, I'm not perfect or anything. So, like, I unfortunately have a tendency to do this. And, it's unfortunate that us being the way we are as people, we always tend to put more weight on whatever bad might happen, and it often prevents us from taking that one risk that we really want to do, because we're overthinking it, and we really want to do it, but we're just afraid of the bad that's going to come out of it, and we don't really consider the good as much as we should. And I feel like, for me, at least, that's where a lot of worry and anxiety kind of stuff stems from. And, it's only a matter of practicing and plugging it into yourself and just giving yourself those reminders of like, okay, yeah, this bad thing definitely could happen. But two things. One, what about the good side of this? Like, what happens if if this does go the bad route, what good comes out of that, Any bad scenario like this, there's always some sort of good that will come out of it. And two, what do I really lose from this, Like, sure, maybe, like I said before, maybe you don't get that job opportunity, or, you don't get into that relationship, or you don't get that new car, But it's like, at the end of the day, what do you really lose from that? You don't gain those things, but you also don't lose anything either, You aren't losing something you don't have. Those things that you want and don't have, you haven't lost them, It's not that they're out of your reach. You just didn't get them. It doesn't mean you lost anything, though. You still have everything you started out with. It's all still there. But you gotta see it as that. That's the most important part. You lost nothing. You're still a winner at the end of the day, You've just allowed yourself to be able to have a million more opportunities that you never thought you could have had before. The door is open. The world is your playground. And as they said it in Scarface, the world is yours. So yeah. Another short video for today. But I feel like a really important one. At least for me. And I hope for a lot of you as well. So, that's all I have for today. Stay blessed.